The Jamestown Massacre was a pivotal conflict between English colonists and the Powhatan Confederacy of Native Americans that unfolded in 1622 in what is now Virginia. The Powhatan Confederacy was a sophisticated political, social, and military alliance comprising over 30 Algonquin-speaking Native American tribes inhabiting regions of present-day Virginia, Maryland, and parts of North Carolina. This confederacy's origins trace back to Chief Powhatan, also known by his given name, Wahunsenkaw, who ascended as leader of the Powhatan tribe through maternal inheritance. Initially, he governed 6 tribes: the Appomattox, the Arahatek, the Chiskiak, the Mattaponi, the Pamunkey, and the Powhatan. From this modest beginning, Powhatan expanded his influence from his stronghold at Werowocomoco by subjugating neighboring tribes. His strategy included military conquest, slaying chiefs and elders to replace them with his sons, trusted relatives, or loyal members of the Confederacy, and persuasive diplomacy, offering compelling incentives and bribes to secure alliances. By 1607, the Powhatan Confederacy had grown to encompass over 30 tribes, each led by a chief who reported to Powhatan and contributed tribute redistributed across the Confederacy. Their economy thrived on agriculture, trade, and spoils taken from rival groups, particularly during their conflicts with the formidable Iroquois Confederacy. The Jamestown colony and initial tensions before the Jamestown settlement. The English had attempted to establish the ill-fated Roanoke colony in 1585 and 1587, which mysteriously vanished by 1590. In 1607, the Jamestown colony was founded in Virginia, marking a new chapter in English colonization. By then, Native Americans were already familiar with Europeans, and their interactions had been far from harmonious. Initially, the Powhatan Confederacy tolerated the Jamestown settlers, who had chosen an undesirable swamp for their settlement. Viewing the newcomers as potential allies against the Spanish and hostile tribes, Chief Powhatan supplied them with food and resources. However, the colonists quickly developed a dependency on these provisions, neglecting self-sufficiency in favor of trading and receiving gifts. Over time, their growing demands for food and expansion beyond Jamestown's boundaries strained relations. In response, Chief Powhatan restricted the colonists to their settlement and authorized his warriors to eliminate any Englishmen found outside the fort. This decision precipitated the starving time of 1609 to 1610, a dire period during which over 80% of the settlers perished. During this time, Captain John Smith, a prominent English leader, was captured by the Powhatan. Legend suggests that his release was negotiated by Powhatan's daughter, Pocahontas. The First Powhatan War, 1610 to 1614. In 1610, the English adopted a policy of no compromise, igniting the First Powhatan War, a brutal series of guerrilla skirmishes and retaliatory strikes that inflicted heavy casualties on both sides. The Powhatan warriors excelled in guerrilla tactics, utilizing their swift and precise bows and arrows against the English, who were hampered by the slow reload time of their muskets. Meanwhile, the English launched devastating raids on native villages, killing inhabitants and seizing supplies. Their advantage lay in a steady influx of reinforcements and resources from England, a luxury unavailable to the Powhatan. Amidst the hostilities, English settlements steadily expanded inland. In 1610, John Rolfe arrived with hybrid tobacco seeds, which he planted and cultivated. By 1614, he had established a prosperous plantation near the Henricus colony, north of Jamestown. That same year, the English escalated tensions by kidnapping Pocahontas, holding her for ransom at Henricus, and using her captivity to gain leverage over the Powhatan Confederacy. Chief Powhatan reluctantly agreed to the terms for Pocahontas's release, providing the requested tools, weapons, and prisoners. However, the English chose to keep Pocahontas. During her captivity, she converted to Christianity, adopting the name Rebecca, and in 1614 married John Rolfe. The union was sanctioned by both Chief Powhatan and the colonial authorities, marking the conclusion of the First Powhatan War. In 1617, Pocahontas, now Rebecca Rolfe, traveled to England with her husband, their young son Thomas Rolfe, and a delegation of Powhatan family and tribal members, including her brother-in-law, Tomacomo. Tomacomo was tasked with gathering information about the English to report back to the Powhatan leadership. Tragically, Pocahontas fell ill and died during the return journey. Upon his return, Tomacomo presented a damning report about the English to a council of Powhatan elders and chiefs. However, his criticisms were discredited by a colonial delegation, silencing his concerns. Pocahontas' son, Thomas Rolfe, remained in England under the care of Rolfe's brother. Grieving the loss of his daughter, Chief Powhatan maintained a fragile peace, but abdicated his position shortly after her death. He passed away in 1618, leaving a leadership void within the Confederacy. A new leader emerges after Powhatan's death. Leadership passed to his stepbrother, Opechancanough. Unlike Powhatan, Opechancanough trusted Tomacomo's assertions about the English and regarded them as truthful warnings. Despite this, the Powhatan Confederacy appeared outwardly cooperative. In 1611, the English had established the Henricus settlement, near which the first college in North America was founded. Its mission was to educate Native American youth in Christian teachings and European customs, reflecting the colonists' hope for assimilation. Pocahontas' conversion to Christianity had bolstered these ambitions, encouraging optimism that more Native Americans might follow her example. Opechancanough, seeking to sustain peaceful relations, supported such efforts and even participated to promote goodwill. His actions reassured the colonists, fostering a perception of harmonious coexistence. John Rolfe remarried after Pocahontas' death and became an advocate for fair treatment of Native Americans, further contributing to the appearance of peace during this period. However, tensions simmered beneath the surface, setting the stage for future conflicts between the Powhatan Confederacy and the English settlers. Rising tensions and the prelude to massacre in 1621. Tensions between the Powhatan Confederacy and the English settlers escalated when Namatanui, the war chief under Opechancanough, was killed by colonists after he murdered an Englishman and stole his clothes. Surprisingly, Opechancanough refrained from seeking revenge, claiming that Namatanui had earned his fate. However, his sincerity in this declaration remains a topic of debate. Around the same time, Opechancanough and his brother Apitchepam adopted war names, signaling preparations for an offensive against the English. They summoned the tribes to a ceremonial gathering to honor the memory of Chief Powhatan, using the occasion to gather intelligence on the settlers' routines and defenses. The massacre on the morning of March 22, 1622, the day began like any other. Colonists went about their usual tasks, working on farms and in workshops. Unarmed Native Americans, many of whom were familiar visitors, approached European settlements under the guise of friendship. They knocked on doors, requested entry, and were welcomed into homes. Sharing meals or drinks, they lulled the settlers into a false sense of security. Suddenly the mood shifted. Using whatever weapons they could find, kitchen knives, heavy pots, and even the colonists' own firearms, the natives launched a devastating attack. Entire families were slaughtered, and homes were set ablaze. The assault, meticulously planned and executed, claimed the lives of an estimated 347 colonists, including men, women, and children. Key settlements, such as the college, hospital, and colony of Henricus, were obliterated, and their inhabitants, including John Rolfe, were killed. Aftermath of the attack. Despite their overwhelming success, the Powhatan stopped short of annihilating the remaining colonists. Those living outside of Jamestown were defenseless and could have been easily killed, and Jamestown itself could have been burned to the ground, trapping colonists as they fled. However, the Powhatans chose to wait, believing that the settlers would abandon the territory, as defeated native tribes often did under similar circumstances. Contrary to their expectations, the English not only stayed but prepared for retaliation. The massacre marked the beginning of the Second Powhatan War, a protracted conflict that officially ended in 1626 when Opechancanough sued for peace. Despite this, skirmishes and hostility persisted into the 1630s, with occasional outbreaks of violence. Continuing conflict. The peace was temporary, as tensions reignited in 1644, leading to the Third Powhatan War, which lasted until 1646. These later conflicts, along with their far-reaching consequences, will be explored in greater depth in future videos. The Jamestown Massacre, however, remains a turning point in the fraught relationship between the Powhatan Confederacy and the English settlers, setting the stage for decades of bloodshed and resistance.